Teens are experiencing a mental health crisis, according to a new CDC survey on the well-being of young people. 42% of high school students reported feeling persistent sadness or hopelessness in the latest data. And thoughts of suicide are rising, with 24% of girls reporting that they made a plan to end their lives. In her new book out today, The Emotional Lives of Teenagers, Raising Connected, Capable, and Compassionate Adolescents, psychologist Lisa Damour offers coping mechanisms. She says intense emotions like anxiety can be an opportunity instead of an obstacle. Lisa, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm good.
All right, so why is teen mental health in decline?
Well, in the decade before the pandemic, we were seeing rising rates of anxiety and depression. And then, of course, the pandemic did not help. So we are now dealing with the aftermath of that. And teens worry about things like climate change. They worry about political polarization. There's a lot of stress on being a teenager. But one of the challenges we're also facing is how we're talking about what mental health is. The way the culture talks about it has moved to a place that doesn't line up with how we understand it in psychology. So often, when people talk about mental health, they seem to suggest that you know you're mentally healthy if you feel good or calm or relaxed. But that's not our view in psychology. For us, mental health is two things. It's having feelings that make sense in their context, even if those feelings are painful, and then managing those feelings well. So if a kid gets dumped and his heart is broken, we expect to see sadness. We ache for him, but we don't see that as a grounds for concern. And what we want to see is, how does he manage it? Does he reach out to his friends? Does he put on his sad playlist to get the sad feelings out? Does he go for a run? Or does he smoke marijuana, act like a jerk around the house, get online and give kids a hard time? That's where our concerns would sit.
So then the takeaway for parents is your goal as a parent is not to make your kid always feel good. It's to help them with deal with bad emotions well, or difficult emotions well. I guess there is no such thing as a bad emotion if it's an appropriate one.
If it fits the moment, absolutely. And so much of what that looks like is just being a steady presence, not overreacting, not jumping into action. When we can be calm in the face of pretty intense adolescent emotionality, what we send a message is that, you may be uncomfortable, but I don't think this is unmanageable.
When is it time to get professional help?
There are three things we want people to be on the lookout for. So the first thing is we expect to see teen moods go up and down. That is expectable. We don't want to see mood go to a concerning place and stay there. We also don't want teenagers' moods to get in the way of their lives. It shouldn't disrupt their ability to see their friends and go to school. And the last thing we want to watch out for is what we call costly coping. This is where kids manage in ways that have a cost associated. So they're using substances, or they're tearing at the fabric of relationships, or they're harming themselves.
The chapter that spoke to me was chapter 3, Seismic Shift, how adolescence puts a new emotional spin on everyday life. And that's what it seems like. Every day there's something. And as parents, I hate to admit it, but sometimes we tiptoe around. And we don't want to ask because we feel like we're prying. How do we get our teens to open up and talk to us about what's going on in their everyday lives?
So you've probably found you can ask teenagers questions and they'll say, like, fine, nothing happened. Yeah. Here's something I have discovered. It is very common for teenagers to wait until their parent or parents are in bed at night, getting ready to go to sleep, and then suddenly the kid shows up and is chatty as can be. And I was like hearing this everywhere, and I thought, like, what is going on? And here's what I think is happening. Teens are organized around autonomy. They want to become increasingly independent. And so when we're asking the questions, we're calling the shots. If they wait till we're in bed, they decide if there's going to be a conversation. They decide the topic, because teens have actually said to me, at night, my parents don't ask so many questions or bring up new topics. And I'm thinking, because they're trying to go to sleep.
Right.
And then if the teenager wants the conversation over, they just say, okay, good night. Yeah. So we have to make ourselves available on their terms. And the thing that is so important is that the most powerful force for mental health in adolescence is strong relationships with caring adults. So we got to meet them more than halfway.
Yeah. The other thing that happens with teenagers, my 13-year-old will sometimes send me a text message with some sort of like expression of stress or difficulty, and I'll take it as a real big deal. I'll try to call him, doesn't pick up the phone, and it's like he just offloading it was what he wanted to do. He didn't actually want me to follow up and like have a powwow about it. That was it. That seems to be a tactic as well.
Yeah.
It's very common. I call it sort of dumping the emotional garbage, right? And they're like, I picked up this garbage today. I don't want it. You take it. You may feel lousy, but I feel better. That's a working system for the teenager.
Lisa, I have to say, you talk about adultification of Black teens, gender differences, and parents managing their emotions. So I really, really enjoy what you've covered in here, but I think it's helpful.
A variety of
Even if you're
topics.
not with a teenager. I have a 9-year-old, but it's all very helpful.
It's a great book. You've helped me tremendously with my 13-year-old. This will help a lot of other people who don't have the access to you directly, and it's just really powerful. I actually particularly love the section on why kids hate school in some cases. We'll leave that one for readers at home, but
Yeah, no doubt. Lisa Damour, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Emotional Lives of Teenagers is on sale now. If your child is in acute distress, visit 988lifeline.org or call or text the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988. We will be right back.